sky's not blue.
Welcome back to the Cult House Podcast. I'm your host, the Scholar of Spite and the Saturday Night Delight, Roger Riddell. Joining me today, he is the guitarist and vocalist for the Atlas Moth and Motherless. He's got 3 computers in his head and he's not afraid to use them. Stavros Giannopoulos.
That's
How
a hell of a
today, Stavros?
I'm good, bud. Are you the Sultan of Swing yet? That should be the next one, I think.
The Sultan of Swing.
The Sultan of Swing, yeah.
I don't even know what that even means.
I have no idea either.
Like swing the music or like baseball?
It's possible either. I think it's from Hostel.
Oh,
Maybe he says the King of the Swing. And it's the Sultan of SWAT from...
Yeah, Sultan of SWAT's baseball.
Yeah, that's the Sandlot, right?
I think so. But I thought the Sultan of SWAT was like Babe Ruth or something.
Right, yeah, they say it in the Sandlot. They're like the Sultan of SWAT, something of clout or something. They're like, I'll repeat all of his nicknames. We've had this conversation with Eddie before.
Probably.
Yeah, but he was saying that he had a billion nicknames, and we were like, yeah, whatever. I don't care about some dead Yankee, you know what I mean? I'm from Chicago.
Yeah. The only nickname of Eddie's that I care about right now is Don Vito.
That's the only one I care about too. That's for sure. He is absolutely Don Vito.
He's like the Chicago Don Vito.
He totally is, dude. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. I don't know how much we should be talking about his middle name on the show without him being around, but I just found out about it by accident when I was visiting him one time back in like 2017 or 2018 because he wanted me to check his mail.
So a couple, I'm sure some of you, I know you know, but during the pandemic, I was selling calendars of my dog, my bulldog Bobo, and I remember sending him the link to it, and he's like, all right, first question, am I in this calendar at all? And I was like, why the fuck would you be in this calendar about my fucking bulldog? So I think he's fine with us talking about him. Yeah, he loves it.
Yeah.
We also love Eddie. You know, he's our little weirdo, and he's our Kramer. It's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like every day you and I in that like group chat that we have going on just find new ways to try to get him to crack too.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, he's such a character. For anybody that doesn't know, it's Eddie Gobo from the band Something Is Waiting, who I'm a big fan of, an old friend of. So is Roger. He's ridiculous, man. He's one of the most interesting human beings I've ever met. You know what I mean? And you can never figure out what he's fucking thinking. I think that's impressive.
Yeah.
You know, like, how can you really argue with that? He's such an individual. You know, I love that about him. He pisses me the fuck off sometimes. He's one of the only people that can do that. But at the end of the day, he's got a good heart. And I always try to make up with him as quick as possible.
Like his like mannerisms crack me up. Like I've told you before about the time that I got him to ride the L when we were going to it was some block party down in like Garfield Park of all places, which
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
It was insane.
Yeah. And making Eddie do that sounds hilarious, actually.
Yeah, well, we get on the purple line and like he sits down at like the end of the car, and this was after they like switched all the cars so that all of the seats are like along the outer wall facing inward. So I'm on one side, he's on the other. Yeah, they did it at some point after like I left the first time, because when I was here originally, all of the cars were for the most part still like the ones on the brown line, because the brown line still has the ones where there's like one side that's facing one direction and one side facing the other direction.
Oh, wait.
But now on the red line, all of the seats face like inward.
So you're like looking at, it's like New York.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. I haven't taken the red line since the Cubs won the World Series.
Yeah, the red and the purple
It's
line are
literally
both like that. And like me and Eddie get on the purple line and he gets on at like the end of the car and like I'm sitting across from him and there's this girl that's like two seats down from him and he just like reclines like where he's looking at her like upside down. He just starts doing like the Eddie shit where he's like, "Oh," and like trying to have a conversation.
First of all, that was
It's
a
just like this
really
random
good.
fucking conversation, like, "How are you today?" And then he's just throwing in like, "Oh."
uh First of all, it's an incredibly good impression of him. It's fucking really good. And I can picture all of this. One of my favorite things about Eddie is when he's about to laugh and he stops and he's like, and then he just cracks up. I love that to fucking the day I die. That shit's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
I can't
Like
wait to tell him that we talked about him for the first 10 minutes of the interview.
well, he did like exactly that when we were watching WrestleMania. Like he does the thing where he does that face and then he looks around to see how everyone else is going to react and then he laughs.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's almost like a preemptive, like, I guess we're gonna laugh now, you know? Like whether I found it funny or not, I'm laughing because Eddie's making me laugh. So it works either which way.
Yeah. Well, the baseball thing at the beginning just reminded me of something because like I don't remember if I ever told you this story, but it's a story about like so you know Todd McFarlane, the comic artist, is like super into baseball, right?
Right. Doesn't he have like a bunch of like autographed baseballs or something like
Yeah.
that? Yeah.
Yeah, and so like I've never had a chance to ask him about this because I found out about it like after the last time that I like ever interviewed him, and I haven't
Mhm.
managed to get him on here yet. But he supposedly there was some kind of like issue between him and another artist at one point. And I can't remember for sure who the artist is, and I don't want to like name any names because I
Right.
don't want it to be like fucking wrong. But
Right. Of course not.
basically, he had an issue with someone, and that person was also at his like holiday party one year. And he was showing someone, I think it was like his Babe Ruth like home run ball.
The
And
Sultan of SWAT is
yeah.
who you're talking about. Yeah. The king of the swing, baby. Yeah.
And so he's showing this ball to someone else and comparing it to this other ball that he has. It's like there's nothing special about it. And so this artist who I guess had like some kind of like issue with him. And I don't think it was like a major issue at the time either because they ended up working together again. But for
Okay.
whatever reason, like he got under this artist's skin at some point at that particular moment in time. And that artist like, so if someone mixed these balls up, you wouldn't know which one was which. And he was like, yeah. And so he's like, let me see them. And then he like takes them and he like mixes them around behind his back and hands them back to him. He's like, Merry Christmas.
Yo, that's kind of fucking awesome. What a dick move.
Yeah.
What? Jesus Christ.
I have no idea like how true that story is though. Like I heard it secondhand from another artist who I don't know was like actually at the party or not because I think they heard it secondhand from another artist.
That sounds like one of those things that could have actually happened, but like the guy actually didn't do anything. He knew exactly which ball it was. You know what I mean? Because it's a pretty big dick move to pull on McFarlane if you're at his holiday party, right? He is
Yeah.
Todd McFarlane. You know what I mean?
Well, I think too, if you're the kind of person who's gonna buy the Babe Ruth home run ball, you're probably gonna know the difference between it and any other baseball in your collection.
I mean, just with age, right?
Yeah. Like
It's
I
got
feel
to be
like it
yellowed.
someone who's like that into that sort of thing is probably gonna be able to look at the stitching and be like, yeah, Babe Ruth hit this.
Yeah, so like I'm like I follow a lot of collectible stuff on the internet, and one thing I just saw the other day was like they were trying to like figure out when this like Mickey Mantle signed ball was from or something like that. And I was, dude, it got fucking. I am a nerd, like pretty fucking deep. If you show me like five different toy guns, I could probably tell you from what line and what era they're from at least, right? Um, he was talking about like they were like, oh yeah, this is like a Mickey Mantle signed ball, but is this a game played ball? And some guy was like, well, the stitching was only this color, and I'm like, wow, holy fuck. I mean, it makes sense that that's changed over time, but like he was saying that the stitching on certain balls is this color between this era and this era, and they didn't stamp them like game used MLB balls before something or another. I forget,
Yeah.
but yeah, I'm sure you couldn't possibly. First, why is he handling it? You
Yeah,
know,
like that's the other
that's
thing. Like that's why I've the next time that I like finally get to talk to McFarlane again, like that's one of the first things I want to ask him about because I heard this story I want to say like 5 or 6 years ago and I have not had like a definitive like
Yeah,
chance to find out about it.
it sounds questionable. I mean, the
Yeah.
dude is like, I mean, dude, I'm literally like sitting here talking to you, and this is like, I have a McFarlane toy, right? Like, this dude is like, this guy is like collectors of all collector shit. You know what I mean? Like, you really like he puts out more collector stuff than you could possibly imagine. You probably can't see it. Maybe you can't. Those are all. Hold on. Yeah, there we go. These are all McFarlane superpower figures that I have.
Yeah, I can like barely see them because they're like in the
Right.
shadow, but like I know what they are because you sent me pictures of them on text before.
Yeah, because I'm like, yo, go look for these. But they're pretty awesome. I mean, the guy knows collector stuff. Like, I mean, I can't imagine he would have that like somehow known, or maybe it was like to the naked eye, like you won't be able to tell the difference, but I can't because I'm fucking Tom McFarlane.
Yeah.
Like fucking, I actually saw a thing. It was I didn't know like Getty Lee collected baseballs, signed baseballs. He has like a ridiculous collection, and he has like a collection of like U.S. presidents signed baseballs. It's like, aren't you fucking Canadian? Well, that's a pretty interesting one. I do like a good odd collection though.
Yeah,
I've
I
known
feel
some
like
people
you need
that
to get like at some point like a Mr. Wrestling 2 mask that Jimmy Carter's mom owned or something like that.
yeah, right. Dude,
You
like
know
I
about that,
can't.
right?
Oh yeah, I know all about that. Of course I do.
Yeah, he was
What?
invited to like Jimmy Carter's inauguration and he couldn't go because like one, he couldn't take his mask off, but like also all these years later, it turns out everyone knows that he was like a sex offender, so he wouldn't have been able to pass the clearance anyway.
I fucking think it's amazing, dude. Holy shit. Yeah, I always think about like guys that collect like pieces like that. It's like that's a bit deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like having some like one of one or like some like gear or a baseball that someone hit. Like, dude, that's pretty heavy hitty collecting. And I'm a pretty heavy hitty collector. Like I like to think I got some weight in my collection. I've also been doing it for like basically my entire life. So, you know,
Yeah.
you amass some things. And then if
I
you're
don't
a
know, you
savvy
don't
handyman,
have the right appreciation for LJNs though.
they are one of my favorite toys. The funny thing is that like I have the entire set. I just like
Yeah.
it's well known those toys are dog toys. They're
Yeah.
giant rubber wrestling figures. They don't move. Rick Rude. If you want to see a stupid action figure, Google the LJN WWF Rick Rude. His arms are attached to his body, and he has his like thumbs in the front of his pants. You can't even move. It's a wrestling toy. His arms are like his arms and torso are one piece. It's like the worst wrestling toy of all time.
Oh, dude,
Like,
I think that like just the nature of the way that the LJNs look probably preempted me from getting into wrestling by a few years when I was a kid. Because anytime that I was in the toy aisle at the store, I remember seeing wrestling figures and being like, those don't look fucking fun at all.
did those? You're a few years younger than me though. Were those even still sticking around by then? I remember like
How long
like
did
that.
they make those? Because like I just remember the wrestling figures just always look, blocky and like they didn't look as fun as like buying another Ninja Turtle would be.
No, no. See, that would be probably more like Hasbro. So like LJN was
Yeah.
like 84 to 90 ish,
I mean,
not
I would have been in
89
toy aisles in
ish.
like 89, 90. I would have been like three or
So
four
those would have
around
been those
then.
like Hasbro's, like the 4-inch like cartoony looking ones. I also
Yeah.
own a complete collection of. Like it's like I love them too. The Eddie was sitting there trying to say those LJNs were the best ones. It was like that's ridiculous. It's like, dude, like GI Joe clear. I don't collect GI Joe. Like I have some GI Joes because I'm a child of the '80s. But like, there's no doubt in my mind it's like one of the greatest toy lines of all time, if not the best. Maybe Masters of the Universe is the best, but it's
Yeah.
certainly not LJN wrestling. You
Yeah,
know?
like I wasn't a Masters of the Universe kid at all because like that was still a few years ahead of me. But like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
still had a He-Man and a Skeletor as a kid because my cousins were into it and they were a few years older than I was.
Dude, a couple years ago, I lived above a family that were just like staying at they were friends of my landlord and they were staying in my basement apartment. They had a little boy who was probably like 3 or 4, and he was like obsessed with like toys I had in the basement, like common area by the washer and dryer. And he really liked this like giant green monster from Inhuman. It's like a $500 toy. And I was like, oh yeah, I better bring that upstairs because I can see maybe that kid playing with it now. But I looked around and I was like, you know what? I have like 15 or 16 each of Skeletor and He-Man. Like so I dug
Yeah.
a couple up and I went and gave them to him. And he was like, I still get pictures now of him still playing with like his Skeletor. So it's I think it's like a rite of passage. If you didn't have a Skeletor when you were a kid in the 80s, like I'm sorry, there's probably bigger issues going on than not having a Skeletor, but there's definitely issues at home. Like
Yeah.
Skeletor is a everyone have. I still have like I'm sure around here is a Castle Grayskull. Like amongst my things right now, I'm still not unpacked really. So,
Yeah. No, my
but
cousins had like Castle Grayskull. They had uh what was Skeletor's place? It was like something Mountain
Snake
Skull. Yeah,
Mountain,
Snake
dude.
Mountain.
It was fucking so. Oh my god, everything about that line, it's like no shit on like heavy metal and horror movies. Like everything about it's awesome. Like there's like nothing but skull creatures and like monsters that have eyes that like with a lever on the back and they pop out of their fucking heads. Or like, hold up, check it out. Once again, I'm sitting in front of this bad boy. You know, he's got fucking sweet tongue licking action. Like that's so sick. Ah. Oh, it still gets me. I love it.
Yeah.
I love action figures. I also have a bootleg Skeletor because, like, I've gone so far as that having a regular Skeletor isn't cool anymore. I have to have the like Mexican bootleg that you get for $7 at the toy shows. That's
Yeah.
like made like complete shit and like painted like crap. It's awesome though.
Well, dude, like that's like the Ninja Turtles line from the 80s got
Oh, it's
insane like
amazing.
that too. Whereas like I can remember when I was about 4 or 5, because like Turtles was the first thing that I was like super huge into. And the Christmas that I was either 4 or 5, my grandparents went nuts and bought like every figure in the line that they could find at the time and like every like
Yeah,
playset and vehicle. Even though like I don't understand where like how we like stored it all, because at the time I was still living in like this tiny ass trailer with my mom and my sister, right? And so
right,
it's like,
right,
where
right.
was there room for all these toys? But like
Did
they
you
just
have the
went nuts one
Technodrome?
year and got all of them. Oh, I had the Technodrome, I had the
That was a
sewer
big
play
fucking
set.
toy. That was a
Yeah, I
big.
had like the
That
mutant
Technodrome was like
module with like the
this.
drill on the front.
Yeah, that was
I had the
tight.
turtle blimp where you could like inflate the balloon thing.
I had that. I had that. I was a Turtles guy from like the comic book in the 80s. I actually got that through my older sister before the cartoon. And when the cartoon came out, like I was in kindergarten, so it's like everyone was into Turtles. And I was kind of like on the fence with it. I loved wrestling though the entire time and superheroes. And there was kind of like a lull for a minute in superheroes in the early 90s. Like they weren't making anything besides like some repaints of Batman shit and like DC, which I already had from the 80s. So I
Yeah.
didn't really care about it. But when the Turtles came out, I had almost all that stuff. I never had the Technodrome, but I had like the sewer, I had the blimp, I had like the van. I still have the van somewhere. But it was like it's kind of funny because when I went and looked through all my old toys a few years ago, it's like I had everything, and then I just was done. And it's like pretty much exactly when WWF put out Hasbro figures. I was like, oh, this is all I've been waiting for.
The first action figures I ever got when I was like 3 were a Leonardo from the Ninja Turtles, and then
He was my favorite.
Batman, a Superman, and a Joker from like the Super Friends line from like the late 80s.
Was it so like
Or
Kenner
it might have
did
been
like
like the superpower. It was like the Kenner stuff.
yeah, so it was if it was Kenner, it was superpowers,
Yeah,
which
because
were
it was
tight.
right before they did
The first Batman movie.
yeah, because the first Batman movie was the first thing that I ever saw in theaters, and I remember having a bunch of that toy line too.
Yeah, they like basically that was when Toy Biz bought like all of Kenner's shit because they got the DC license, and it was like they were all different. Like the Batman, Joker, Superman were all different. The Superman sort of, I think we used the same head, but his body was different. They didn't have any actions like the ones I like collect specifically that Superman because it was like my favorite toy of all time. Like you squeezed his legs and his arms went like that or
Yeah.
whatever, like
Yeah, I had that one.
and
Then the
then
Joker had like the little thing where you could squirt the water out of his flower that
that
was on his chest.
that was a toy biz. I actually have that one on my wall over there on card. It's the one from the Superpowers line. He looked more like the 70s cartoon version.
Yeah.
And he had a big ass like green mallet. It was great. Oh, fucking
Yeah.
awesome toy. I still have it. I still have so many of my toys. People never realize this shit about me because I never talk about it, but like you and I talk about it a lot. Like I have a ridiculous toy collection. Like pretty much wherever I am in my house, like I'm next to toys.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like
Well, it was like I used to have a huge Star Wars like Power of the Force collection, and I sold all of those on eBay after I finished grad school. But I got like a pretty good amount for all of that for it
Yeah.
having been like played with and everything because I like took care of all that shit when I was a kid and like still had all the accessories matched with who all they went to.
Yeah, that's like key.
But I got like 800, 900 bucks altogether off of that stuff.
It's probably better than you would have gotten today because so much of that stuff has been overproduced and they keep making
Yeah.
like better and better Star Wars toys. Like I try to stay away from Star Wars because it's just too deep. Like, and even then, like the other day, whenever I'm like in different states, like I'm going to Ollie's, which is like the best discount store, like they had a fucking old man Han Solo, and it was like 4.99. I was like, well, can't leave fucking Han behind,
Yeah.
but now this gets me itchy as fuck. I'm like, like, do I need like a young Han Solo? And then I can't have a young Han Solo and not have Chewbacca. And then you can't have Chewbacca and not have R2D2 and fucking
Yeah.
C3.
That
And then all
happened
of
to
a
me with that
sudden,
40th anniversary wave that they put out in like 2017 where they
it's
redid
fucked.
like the little stand that came with the original line in like the 70s,
Yeah.
but it was with
Dude,
like the Black Series figures.
so dope. I love it. I
Yeah.
look at them and there's just so many. And they really go deep on that toy line, Like what I like about wrestling is that like sometimes like I collect I like a Roddy Piper collector. Any Roddy Piper I'll buy. I buy a lot of CM Punks, not all of them. I buy almost all the Stone Colds. I buy almost all the Bret Harts. But I've really whittled that down to like there's this line called the Ultimate Collection that has like, oh, eight heads, four pairs of hands, their entrance gear, their fucking, and it's like now I just have that one. It's like a definitive version. And I don't need them in like different trunks from SummerSlam or some stupid shit. But like I feel pretty put together as far as what I'll buy nowadays. And it's very focused. It's because I have so much though. Like I'm trying to like really make my collection pop, and have it be able to be set up and viewed and enjoyed eventually. I don't quite have the room here right now, but Indiana Jones is the only thing where I'll just buy like literally anything. If it
Yeah.
says Indiana Jones, I just buy it because there's not that much of it either, unfortunately.
Dude, I should have hit you up when I was at C2E2 because there was one table. It was the one that I was telling you about where I talked the dude down on prices a whole bunch on some stuff.
Yeah.
But that table had like a bunch of that Indiana Jones Hasbro wave. And
Oh,
it
wait,
was it was
the
like
new one.
yeah, the new one. And it that dude was doing like 2 for 20.
Ah,
Or you
there's
could
like
but
a
like he was
bunch I
willing to be
missed
talked
too.
down further than that. If you had like a good deal in mind to buy like more of there was some dude who I was trying not to laugh about it when I was like watching the whole thing go down because this dude was like stoked on those like 7 inch X-Men 97 like Sentinels that they just put out. And
Like
he
the
was like,
ones that
I'll
are for
buy it.
like
How much do you want for like all of the Sentinels that you have there?
this
Yeah.
line. Yeah, yeah. I love this line. I didn't get the Sentinel though. I was kind of over it.
Oh, this dude bought like every Sentinel that this guy had. Well, it was
Damn.
the ones that are scaled for like the 6 inch figures
Oh,
though.
so like a little bit bigger. That's like the three and a
Yeah.
quarter or 3.75 inch ones or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, but like this dude bought like all 12 of the Sentinels that this guy had and like basically talked him into like selling them to him for like 90 bucks or something.
You're talking about the HasLab one.
Yeah, I got the HasLab one.
Yeah, that's what you're talking about, right?
No.
Oh, okay. There's another
I'm
one.
talking no, there's one that's shorter that's like
Oh,
7 or 8 inches tall.
oh,
That
okay.
goes it's like an X-Men 97 line one. I'll find a
Okay.
picture of it and send it to you later.
Yeah, I'm curious. I didn't even see that one. That's the thing, the Marvel stuff. Like, I know that you have some pretty good rules. Like, my rules go out the window with Marvel. I can't like contain myself. It's
Yeah.
fucked up. It's almost like prefer doing DC just because like I'm gonna buy all the superpowers I can. Like once I start dabbling in Marvel Legends, like right here, I'm looking at the Hulk Wolverine white suit 2 pack. It's like literally staring me in the face. It's like so many. Do you like how like no matter where I turn, I can be like, oh, you mean from this
Yeah.
line? Do you mean from
Well, it's
this
like
line? It's like
I'll buy pretty much any comic version of Wolverine and any comic version of Spider-Man. And then beyond
right,
that, it
yeah,
has to be like characters that are somewhat associated with like X-Men or Spider-Man for me to
right,
consider
yeah,
buying them. Because
sure.
otherwise you just it's too much because they've got the same kind of issue that like the Star Wars line has where it's like every random character you can think of. There's like a Star Wars Werner Herzog figure because of him being in Mandalorian.
I mean, yo, listen, that's fucking sick.
Yeah.
But like, I need to chill.
Well, like when I was a
You know what I
kid with
mean?
that Power of the Force line, I had just like obscure random background characters from Jabba's palace, like the slug
Right.
looking dude.
Those are like the ones from the original Kenner line that are worth the most, like Yak Face
Yeah,
and
well
Anime
they
Man or
did like
whatever. Like,
reproductions of them in Power of the Force too.
right. Those are like, it's cool when the toy lines get super deep, but like it's also like, even with, like I said, with wrestling, there was a point where I just bought everything that came out, and it was because like I had not collected in a long time, and I fell back in deep. I never got rid of any of my stuff, but I just wasn't buying anything new. I was broke mostly. Like I started the Atlas Moth, I was gone 9 months out of the year. I never had time to enjoy anything at home. But like nowadays, like I'm starting to get like these like there's certain characters that like I remember growing up and like pretending other wrestlers' toys that I had were that character, and be like, oh man, like I wish they would make a great Muda, or I wish they would make a fucking Stan Hansen or something like that. Like 'cause I was a weird little kid watching like early 80s and late 70s wrestling VHS tapes.
Yeah.
But now I get them, so it's like, oh, I must have that one, like they released like a Michael P.S. Hayes. And I was like, well, didn't have him, gotta buy it,
Yeah.
like,
I mean, it's kind of
but
like
like,
when I was a kid and I had like the bone crunching WWF
yeah,
figures from
yeah.
the Jack Specific line. That was before they started making the miniature belts. So I used to just like try to make my own little belts for the figures.
Yeah, you know what? Like, there was that show that was called The Toys That Made Us or whatever. And the one guy that worked on the original Kenner Star Wars line, he said something that was like really made it all make sense to me. And it was like, a little kid has no control over anything. So, like, in this little world that they've built with their toys, they have all the control. Like they can control who's a champion or who's the bad guy, like, and that's kind of like a cool thing to really think about. Now, it doesn't really, I think there's like a point of nostalgia, but also a point of just like in appreciating the art. Like, would I be as into, once again, like metal imagery or graphic design or like art in general if I wasn't into toys? Like I look at some of the packaging on some of the toys I have on my wall, and it's like it's inspirational as far as being a graphic designer goes. Or like, what's awesome is being able to be like, man, I wonder what somebody would look like in this pose to draw. And it's like, well, got about 300 action figures staring me in the face at all times. So let me grab one and
Yeah.
pose it and know what I'm, know anatomy that way, or shit like that. Or like, I always wanted a gray Hulk figure. Boom. Now there's like 20 of them, it's like you pick and choose. They have an awesome looking one to enjoy, People, not everyone gets this kind of stuff, like, but this is stuff that's important to me, it's like it gives me like a sense of escapism too. Like when shit's really hard, it's like I can look at toys all day long, and I'm like, all
Yeah.
right, cool, get and just feel better about shit or whatever.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned the Atlas Moth. We should probably talk about music at some point. Now that
I'd
we're like
hate to,
30
yeah.
minutes in.
Let's just keep talking about toys. Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
well,
we
the
tried to
Atlas
do
Moth
that.
was
We tried to do that like toy series at one time, but
we
yeah,
did. It'd be easier to do nowadays. I have a whole lot more. I like actually less free time, but I'm also closer to you.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And also, like, I've been buying stuff, but I haven't really my only problem is I haven't been opening stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's my only issue. Like, but we should like try to build like whatever the Daily Bugle or whatever. Or you built that one already, didn't you?
oh yeah, I did. Yeah, it's on one of the shelves in my living room.
Yeah, that's right. I think I saw it the last time I was at your house. We should build one of those like fucking Boba Fett helmets or something. I keep
Yeah.
seeing those, but I'm not much of a Lego guy, but I'm up for anything. Should.
Well, anyways, the Atlas Moth.
Oh yeah.
You guys are back together. You're about to go on a tour. You've got a new second vocalist, guitarist. Tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, the Atlas Moth is back. The reason I stopped buying toys to begin with. And now we are older and wiser and better with our money, and now maybe they can make me buy more toys. So that's really the important thing to remember. Yeah, we lost Dave Cush in the wake of the pandemic. Shout out to Dave. I haven't heard from you in 3 years. It'd be nice. Like to know you're okay.
Yeah, I was about to say we
You
should
know,
clarify that when you say that we lost Dave Cush, that
yeah,
he's still
Dave's
alive.
alive as far as I'm aware, but he has not spoken to any of us. He won't return our text messages. I don't know. Last time I saw him, everything was cool, but I'm not gonna force anybody to do this. Like, it's no fun that way. And At this point, it's kind of cool being in a band for this long. And instead of like kind of like wondering where you can go from here, kind of like being like, oh man, some new blood really, let's see where it can go. None of our records sound alike. Got that going for us, It's not like we're like AC/DC big, and replacing the vocals, which worked out for them. So I don't really know. I'm pretty excited about it in general, though. We got Marcus, who plays in a band with a couple other dudes in the Atlas Month called Black Cross Hotel, and he was of Stabbing Westward. So he actually filled in for Andrew. Andrew had a double hip replacement surgery around the beginning of 2011, right? Or I'm sorry, beginning of 2012. And he's actually Marcus is actually Andrew's brother-in-law. So yeah, we he filled in for Andrew back then. And then when we finally decided that we didn't want to let one person's lack of responses to our text messages, determine whether we were going to be a band or not. It was basically, we said it was kind of Marcus's gig, you know. We had a couple people in mind, but it was like, oh, he's first right of refusal. So he didn't refuse. So here we are. And it's great. It's been a whole new vibe, like everyone is, I think, as you get older, your bullshit meter goes fucking, it's real low, dude. Like as soon as you start dealing with crap, it's really easy to be a 42-year-old and be like, fucking peace, like go hang out with my dog and my girlfriend and watch fucking reruns of fucking Seinfeld. I don't need to fucking make my life more fucking difficult than it already
Yeah,
is. So like it's been like super chill. Like we just jammed today and it was like, man, we sound like a fucking band. It
yeah,
didn't take that long. Maybe, a couple weeks of rehearsals, but it's been rocking, man. Yeah.
yeah.
It's been
I don't
great.
think I've ever actually heard Marcus sing.
I mean, he can definitely. I mean, not to take anything away from Dave. I think Dave was an incredible guitar player and an incredible fucking writer. But like, it's not like he really had a huge range to begin with. You know, he he was great at what he did, but he just did kind of one thing, which is kind of good. And Marcus can definitely do that. With his own flair though too. Like we're not looking to just replace. We don't really care about replacing somebody as much as I think that the idea would be like, can we still fucking play like our old songs and have them be worthy, renditions of them? And like how do we feel about writing with somebody? You know what I mean? So like I think that's really what it comes down to. Like Marcus is a fucking incredible. Like he learned all of Dave's parts. He's actually playing through most of Dave's old gear because he bought it from him before during the pandemic. So like there's not a whole lot of change there. It sounds like the fucking Atlas Moth to me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you know he used to be he's like a guitar tech for Kiss or something like that?
I didn't know that. I know he toured with Kiss
Yeah,
and
he told
Stabbing
me that
Westward.
he was like their guitar tech or something once. I might be misremembering this too. He might have been talking about touring with them with Stabbing Westward because
Yeah, I know he toured with them.
I was a few tequilas deep at Kite String when I heard all this. So I
So
might be misremembering it.
he does work on guitars. He also has a sick obsession with buying way too many of them, and he has far too many guitars. Like the funny thing was actually even earlier tonight, I was saying like I'm a guy that like really is like really careful about what he purchases because once I purchase fucking old man Han Solo, I'm eBaying young Han Solo and Chewbacca and all, and then it's just a downhill fucking, you know. But one thing I've never gotten into is collecting guitars. Like I
Yeah,
always was like, you know what? Like I've had a lot of guitars at one time for sure, but I don't believe in like an instrument should be played.
yeah,
And I would have guitars that would sit there in cases for years, and I'd be
yeah.
like,
I feel
well,
bad that I have a guitar and a bass that you've seen before, and like I can't play them for shit.
yeah, but I mean, you could, you
Yeah,
know what
I
I mean?
could. Like
Like,
my whole thing is that I start to like teach myself and then I get like tripped up on something like hammer-ons and hammer-offs and I get annoyed with it and then I stop.
yeah, you know what, dude? Like specifically with those things, those are just things you just gotta be like, huh? I just like listening to what you're trying to play. That's what you
Yeah.
gotta do. And picking easier things, you know what I mean? Like I wanted to fucking play Eruption real fast. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Still can't play Eruption. You know what I mean? Like,
I
but
just want to play the main riff from Sad But True.
you should be able to do that.
Yeah.
Start with Enter Sandman
It's
and
the
go from there.
hammer-ons. Oh, I can do Enter Sandman.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I
It's
had
pretty
Enter
easy.
Sandman down the last time that I was like trying to teach myself.
Yeah, it's pretty easy, man. Like, but guitar, at least you try. You know what I mean? At least you're playing them. I actually on Metallica tip, like at one point, like growing up, I was such a huge Metallica nerd that I had worked at a guitar store specifically so I could get the Kirk Hammett ESP customs, not the LTD customs, like the original ESP. I think it was a KH2 and 3. I had like the black Strat with the skull and crossbone inlays,
Yeah,
and
I remember that one.
yeah, and then there was this like a Les Paul with a puss head spider skull graphic on it.
Yeah.
They've remade them several times, but these are like the original ESP custom shop ones. And I had bought them for like $1,000 a piece, and like that's all I did. I worked at the store simply to buy them. That was the only reason I was at the guitar store. Matter of fact, shortly after I bought the KH3, like I fucking quit. I was like, I'm done later. I got what I needed. I had like a full stack, like fucking a bunch of Kirk Hammett guitars. I was good forever, and I had that KH3 for a long time, just under my bed in a case. Like it never fucking busted out. I didn't even want to play it. Like it looked so cool and it cost, at the time like $1,100, a lot of money, but I saved it to do it. And like, what was like? I didn't want to go out. I was at that point. I was playing in like high school bands and shit. Like the last thing you want to do is go out there like in a band playing a custom Kirk Hammett guitar. It's
Yeah.
like super fucking cheeseball. So I never got into collecting them. I was just like, let me just, I'd rather have someone else enjoy it.
I mean, it's also kind of up there with like getting a flying V and only playing power chords on it.
Yeah, yeah, I like power chords. And
Yeah,
I've had
but
a
I
couple
feel like
fly
with
me
a
say,
with a
"Fuck
flying
you,
V, you got to
Roger."
do
Like,
some shredding, you know?
no, yeah, no, I mean, like you should play a fucking guitar, however you want to
Yeah.
fucking play it. There's no wrong way, you know what I mean? Like, but
Yeah.
there is one wrong way of owning a guitar, and that's it fucking sitting above your fucking desk at your fucking Fortune 500 company, like you're fucking cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, fuck off. Like, I hope none of my guitars ever wound up like that. Like, but I don't understand anything else to do with like a fucking ESP Kirk Hammett signature guitar than to hang on a wall.
Yeah.
That's a waste.
Yeah,
Like,
get a fucking T-Rex skull, put it back there.
yeah, fucking A. That's how you decorate an office. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like maybe an actual mummy.
Yeah.
Something fucking awesome.
That's
But
using your third computer, pal.
God damn it, pal. Using all my computers tonight. My computers are fucking like starting to fucking glitch on me. I'm fucking, been running ragged. But yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so y'all are about to hit the road with Royal Thunder and Oriska.
Yeah.
And then does that wrap up at the Prepare the Ground Festival, or is the Prepare the Ground Festival kind of like in the middle of all that?
It's kind of in the middle. So like we were trying to figure out what to do, and it was just like, well, dude, if we're gonna fucking learn to play, if we're gonna learn a set, like, well, first of all, like we asked Marcus to join the band, and he was like, yeah, he was like, am I just like filling in here? Am I in the band? Like, no, no, no. Like if you're fucking playing the songs, you're in the fucking band. That's how you're all or nothing with me. You know what I mean? Like if you don't want it, I'm sure someone else does. So take it or leave it. And we're like, well, we're gonna play Toronto. We gotta play Chicago. Like we're not gonna not play Chicago. And then it's like, New York has always been really great to us. You should probably play New York. And it's like, oh man, we have a lot of friends in Boston, and Boston's always been really good. Let's probably play Boston. And then you're like, well, how do we get to fucking Toronto? And it's like, well, we got to drive through Detroit. And then it's like, what do we do? We're just going to play Toronto without playing a show in 6 years? No, we can't do that. It's like, well, we can play Chicago. We're going to play Chicago and suck? Like, it's terrible. So then it turned into a tour. It was just like, well, like, here we are. Our stupid asses can't possibly do one thing. We have to do all the things. So we're just doing a short tour, and we have a new booking agent who was very much into us doing like 2.5 week stints a couple times a year and getting us out there kind of like just hitting all the places that we've always done well at, and maybe some touring with some other bands, mostly festivals, stuff like that. Like we're pretty open, man. Like I already wrote a new Atlas Moth song that I showed the guys the other day. So see how it goes. Like that's an after this tour kind of thing to tackle.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, I
You
was
mean at
about
the
to
end of
ask if there's gonna be new music. So
why not?
yeah. Are y'all still on prosthetic?
Yeah, I still own records, you know. They still
Yeah.
bother me about writing them. So like, yeah, we actually have an EP that me and Mike tracked just my guitar and his drums. Shit, fucking sometime in 2021. And it was kind of like actually a way to like get everybody back into the fucking into jamming because me and Mike wanted to jam. And Dave just kind of held it up. He just kept prolonging, prolonging, prolonging. Oh, I'll be ready in the fall, and then the fall would come. I'll be ready in the spring, and spring would come. I'll be ready in the fall. You only hear that so much. So, oh, I think like maybe a year or something like that after we started tracking it, we sent one track to Dallas, Thomas, who's in Ready for Death. He was in Pelican. He was in Swan King, and he dropped some guest guitar on it. And then we were like, you know what, man, maybe we should finish this. And then I basically was starting Motherless, which is my other band, and I was like really getting into that, and it's kind of got pushed aside, pushed aside. And now that we're kind of doing this again, we're like, hey, there's very little get done on that. I was trying to get it done before we did this tour, but life's been kicking my ass. But it's kind of like pretty much my main goal. We'll take it back is to finish vocals on 3 tracks, and I think I need maybe a little bit more guitar. We need some guitar from somebody, maybe me. But yeah, it's almost there. And then I figure from there, like I said, I already have a song written. It could use some work, but yeah, we're definitely a band again. That's the real thing. We're
Yeah.
definitely back in all capacities.
Yeah. And then in the meantime of all of that going on with Motherless, you've got your debut album for that band coming out in like what, September?
September 5th. Actually, I'll drop this with you right now. So August 29th at the Burlington with Death Pose, who's a band on Bloody Panda, Brutal Panda. Sorry. They which is the label that put out a bunch of Atlas Moth vinyl. Um, we're gonna have a dual record release show. So you'll be able to get that record a week early. I'll have copies on CD and vinyl and cassette, hopefully. So
So where all are y'all hitting on tour with Atlas Moth, like on your like circle up through like New York and Boston and then Toronto, and then are y'all hitting anywhere else in Canada, or are you going down through like Michigan or what?
and I wish we were hitting other places in Canada, but you have to drive from Toronto to Philadelphia, and it's like 12 fucking hours. I like
Yeah.
very unhappy about that. But that's how tour goes. You know, you, it is what it is. Like you roll with the punches. But we're hitting like Minneapolis. Always been really good to us. We're hitting Davenport, which we've never done before. But we needed to warm up a little bit. You know what I mean? And shit, apparently that's seemingly like a. It looks like that show's gonna be popping. We're doing Detroit. We're doing Boston, Philadelphia, New York. Um, no, yeah, Baltimore. And then that's when Royal Thunder joins up with us on the second part of it, which is gonna be in Atlanta, and then we're gonna swing down to Little Rock and we're gonna do my buddy CT from Wake. He has a fest there called the Mutants of Metal, um, Monsters of Metal, Mutants of Metal. Sorry, I'm totally fried, but that's in Little Rock. And the main stage on that is incredible. It's us, Royal Thunder from the top. We're headlining Royal Thunder, Wake, and Black Oak, Arkansas. How awesome! And then we're coming through Indianapolis and then Chicago. We're ending here on a Sunday night, which wasn't ideal. I wanted to end here on a Saturday, but Sunday night we're gonna do it a little bit earlier of a show, so everyone can get up and go to work in the morning because we're all old. So 21 and over show. I'm not really too worried about the kids in school, but I am worried about all our old asses. So we'll be there and we'll be done by 11 p.m. for all of you. It's my
Yeah.
promise.
Are y'all gonna be able to do anything special for like the 10-year anniversary of Old Believer?
Oh, 10. Is that this year? No, that was last year.
Was it last year?
Yeah, because that came out in
Oh,
24. Whoa, that's wild. It's kind of funny because I think that we all kind of like block that record out of our minds because like it's such a dark time for all of us, like as a band and fucking personally. Like We were all fucked up on drugs, and my mom was dying. The record's all about my mother dying. It's like, why do I want to go out there and sing that shit? And then, like, our drummer at the time kind of wound up being a little bit of a, persona non grata. I'll be political and say that. Um, I don't know. I don't know. It's a record that, like, we always could go back and do something for it later. Unfortunately, we missed Ache for the Distance's tenure because of the pandemic, which really bummed me the fuck out because that record is so important to all of us. Like, it's the record that pops. It's the record people still come up to me like, "Oh man, that fucking record." And usually I'm like, "Why didn't you listen to the other ones?" But
Yeah.
but I want to celebrate all of them. So next year, I know we're planning on doing a 15-year something touring shows, festivals for Ache for the Distance. That's on the docket for sure. We want to play that entire record all the way through. There's a couple songs we never played on it live, which, mind you, not trying to bury David Cush, but he didn't want to play some of the songs live, and it like really fucking bugged us because our first record was basically like every song we played live on that record, except for the one song that was kind of like the ballad, which was coincidentally Dave's baby, like. So then it came to fucking Ache, and all of a sudden he just didn't want. No, I want to only play these songs, and then it's like okay, and then we did Old Believer, and it was like the worst, where he would only wanted to play a couple songs, and like we gave him a lot of room to run with on that record too. It always bummed me out. So there's always a possibility. Um, I just recently joked about making Mike re-record the drums for it, which I think would be pretty funny. But I also would like to kind of hear those songs in a different way. I kind of feel like there's some life in those that like they didn't quite get captured. Like there was some weird stuff around that record. Like I said, my mom was passing away. I wrote all the lyrics for that record in the 2 weeks from when she entered hospice to when she died. So like by the time I wrote all those lyrics and then I had to go and record them and it was really tough. And then I remember Andrew and Dave drove down to Athens, Georgia, and mixed and mastered it with Kyle Spence from Harvey Milk and Dinosaur Jr., old buddy of ours who we toured with. And I remember like just kind of being like, are these guys not listening to our notes? Like me and our drummer Dan at the time and Alex, our bass player, were like, hello? Like what? Why does this mix still sound like this? Like so there's like some unhappiness in that. But I'll tell you this though, on this tour, what we do have is cassette versions of the first three records, including the Old Believer, which is cool. Actually, something that um didn't make well, I guess it did make the cut in Japan. We had our sound guy, Paul, who went by Red Jr., and we had Sanford Parker remix a song piece. And they were only available on the Japanese version. And those songs are on the cassette now. So there's some stuff out there. I know that we have some live sets. Old Bully or 18 instance. I'm trying to finalize a vinyl pressing for next year, 15th anniversary, and I just unearthed like several live sets from that tour, including us at Roadburn, which I'd really like to release because it's a pretty pinnacle set. There's a lot of stuff out there. I don't know if like people give a fuck about us enough to start releasing demos, but there's a lot of demos, especially from the Old Believer and Coma Noir days that were like pretty cool. So I
Yeah.
don't know. There's always something though. I'm sure I'll crack somebody into playing some of the stuff that we never got to play off of fucking Old Believer because there were some jams on there I really wish we got to explore. Like the weirder ones, especially like City of Light and Hesperian. Hesperian
Yeah.
was on my list to play on this tour for the record. I was
Halcyon
like,
Boulevard is probably like my favorite song off of that album.
we played that one on the Ocean tour before the record came out.
Yeah, I
And
remember seeing y'all play that at DC9.
yeah, oddly enough, the guest guitar part on there was Marcus. so like, so there is that. I don't know, like he's actually on I think almost all the records except for the first one. So
Yeah. If y'all
Mark,
did like remaster and re-release Old Believer, you could also put it out with the like alternate cover that appeared when you put like that original cover underwater, and then
I
it
mean
would
that was
differentiate it from the original one.
that's true. That's such a great Great gimmick though, like I don't
Yeah.
want to let that one go. So a story that not many people, or maybe I talked about it time, but it's been fucking 11 years, so I don't remember. So excuse me if I have. But the funny thing about that is that I had actually, I I, I can't believe I can even say this, but through a friend of a friend, I had befriended Storm Thurgerson, who was the guy that made Dark Side of the Moon, all the Pink Floyd covers. He did Cranberries, he did Muse, he did all the best album covers you could think of. He did, and he did them all practically. And I met him through a guy who had done a documentary on him, and he put me in contact with him, and I talked to him back and forth. This is like basically a guy that like made me want to make album covers, like and appreciate how important an album cover was. I had befriended him, and we were talking and talking. I'm like, listen, man, like I can probably squeeze a chunk of money, not Pink Floyd money, not Muse money, like not
Yeah.
Cranberries, but like if you have anything, like, and at this point, like we're kind of reaching, we were pretty extensive packaging, but like we were basically reaching the digipack only CD phase of the world that we're in right now, And I was like, dude, if you can get me two pictures for front and back. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take anything. You got something laying around? Like I'll fucking I'll rework the title. I don't give a fuck. And he actually had some really cool stuff that I was like, actually, this works with Old Believer. And I was like, yeah. Like he goes, well, I'd like to edit some of it. I'd like to get, can you give me a couple weeks? I got a couple things to do. Yada yada yada. He's like, but I'll give it to you at a discounted price. And I was like, yes, like 100%. And then we went to Europe on tour with Intronaut, and he died. So it was like, no, like I was this close. And then like his email started bouncing back from his son, and his son was like, well, my father's work is now extinct and very important. And it's like, you mean like unaffordable? That's all I'm hearing right now. When you say very important, it's like, yes, I don't have that kind of money. So luckily though, we had what's his name? Don Clark from Demon Hunter, who's like, say what you will about his band. I know they're Christian. I actually always enjoyed him, but he did a lot of pretty epic covers for like and album layouts for a bunch of metalcore bands at one point. I know he did a lot of Norma Jeans, which I really liked, like Bleeding Through. Like now he does like Target gift cards. Like he's rolling in dough. You know what I mean? Like, but and he charged me quite a bit, but I loved his work. So to be fair, I did get to work with a guy I really looked up to, and he did a fucking amazing job. And like our model, Daria, was amazing. Who's still a friend of ours. Hank Pearl took the photos. It came out great. I wouldn't change it for the world, but the only reason we had that cover was because I was trying to do a Storm Ferguson thing. I almost didn't even have to do it. I almost let Storm do it himself.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. So if anybody's interested, there's a documentary called Taken by Storm. Watch it. It'll blow your fucking mind. It's all about Hypnosis, which is like his company, his art company. And like when you see Pink Floyd's Animals and you see like that factory with like a fucking flying pig, that's an actual photograph. Like there's no they got a pig balloon and they suspended it up into the sky and they took the photo. Or like there's the Cranberries album cover where there's I think it's a girl, maybe it's a guy, doesn't matter. There's a person running out on the beach, and there's like these big red balls of varying size, like bouncing behind her and kind of like chasing her. And what you don't realize is that they like had a big ass trellis full of these red balls. And they told this fucking model, hey, run. And then someone released the balls, and the balls would go bouncing down the fucking thing while Storm was like, and then it'd be like, all right, everybody go collect those balls. Let's do it again. Like, or the one Pink Floyd album cover with the guy buried in the sand. It's a guy buried in the sand. The guy on fire on Wish You Were Here. That guy was on fire. It's
Yeah.
fucking crazy. Like the guy did art better than anyone because he like you can make art or you can make art. Like that dude is like fucking inventing art. I don't even know how to put it to you. Like he was amazing. He was such a humble, cool, like like not against like telling a dirty joke, older man, old grandpa kind of guy. He was great.
Yeah.
I'm glad I got to talk to him. I actually have like somewhere in my personal files. I have the printouts of the emails that we exchanged because I was like, yeah, it happened. Like delete my Gmail. Fuck you. Like I got those Storm Ferguson emails.
Yeah, dude, that reminds me of like back in I know I told you about this before too, back in 2012, I think it was. I had like been talking to Ralph Steadman for a piece that I did for like
That would have been my other one.
yeah.
Ralph Steadman would have been my other one. You know what I mean? That was like if I could get him to do something, it'd be incredible.
Yeah, like I was writing this article when I was back in Louisville about why Hunter Thompson doesn't have a hometown heroes banner in
Hmm.
Louisville on the side of a building like all these other like Louisville celebrities like Diane Sawyer and Muhammad Ali and so on have. And basically the people that run that program left him out of it because they said that the way that he lived his life and the way that he died wasn't something that they thought that anyone should look up to, that they didn't want their children exposed to. I was like, that's
Yeah.
bullshit. Because like if Ernest Hemingway or like Jimi Hendrix or whatever was from this town, you wouldn't have any problem putting them on a banner.
I mean, dude, like every fucking celebrity on the face of the planet has been fucked up at one point.
Yeah.
What I mean? It's called art, man. How do you think we make it? We're depressed and we do drugs and drink, Like, come on.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
actually,
like,
oh god.
so basically, I wanted to get like Ralph Steadman's input on this because he had worked with Hunter for so long. And so I reached out to him for comment and I was trying to get him and like Johnny Depp. And I never could get through like to like Johnny Depp's agents or whatever because like that's all
Yeah,
just like a whole like several layers of bullshit to get anyone like that.
I'm
But
sure.
I got Ralph through like his website's email address
Uh-huh.
and basically communicated with him through his daughter. And
Oh
to
wow.
initially get him to like send me a response, uh, I had to resubmit my initial email Gonzo style. Like I like basically it was like you need to like address Ralph like you really mean it.
Okay.
For him to respond to this. And so like I sent this whole like email back to him calling him a bastard and like all this other shit. And then he like sent me a response. He was like, "Yeah, here's what I think about this."
Oh man, that's fucking amazing. Yo, that's so incredible, dude. Holy shit. That's fucking next level.
Yeah.
Hunter
And then
Thompson is up there
I
for the
got a
king.
shout out on his website after that too.
No shit. That's
Yeah, like
amazing.
he flagged the article on his website and this was like really early into me like being out of school or whatever and like trying to do shit professionally. And he like called me an up and coming journalist or whatever on there. So I was like, oh, that's cool as shit. Like, and not only did I get to work with Ralph Steadman on this, like get comment from him on this, but he like flagged it on his website. And then the craziest thing about this is that my editor on that piece wanted me to ask him if he would do a sketch or not a sketch, an illustration for the piece pro bono. I was like, I'm not gonna ask Ralph Steadman to do something for fucking free.
Fuck no. Are you
Yeah,
kidding me? Like, I mean, like I said, like I'm over here telling you that I was begging fucking Storm Ferguson, but I also wasn't like, do a whole shoot for me. I was like, what do you got lying around? Like, but
yeah,
yeah, come on. I actually have a Ralph Steadman tattoo. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
my earliest AMSR I can think of is watching him ink lettering on like the bonus of the Criterion Collection Fear and Loathing. Like it like me and my buddy Rosario would sit there and we would watch it over and over and be like, how does he do it? Like
yeah.
like him, those splatters are just like so perfect. And how he just hits lettering, you're just like, how the fuck did he pull that off? Like I'm over here taking ink and being like, ah, and it's like
Oh, dude, that
that's how it works.
Criterion Collection packaging on Fear and Loathing is the
It's
main
amazing.
reason why I won't upgrade that DVD to like a Blu-ray.
Yeah, there's no point, dude. That fucking
Yeah,
Criterion Collection's fucking. It's like I got rid of most of my DVDs just because I had to fucking cut something somewhere, and like the things I kept were like that, a year and a half in life of Metallica, like
yeah,
the Indiana Jones box set, the Star Wars box set, only heavy hitters, ones that like I absolutely must have, like Pulp Fiction's in there. I got like a special edition, but
yeah.
for the
And that's
majority of
why I
those,
don't
like,
do vinyl because like I just that if I start buying any vinyl, I'm gonna want to replace my entire CD collection with vinyl.
and that's like almost impossible at
Yeah, well,
sometimes, you know what I
you've
mean?
seen
Like,
my CD collection too. Like it
yeah.
takes up like a fair chunk of like one of the walls in my living room.
Right, right. I mean, I have a CD collection and a record collection. I won't get rid of either. I've pared down my record collection a bit just because I fucking have a bad back and I'm getting old.
Yeah.
And a record to me is something that's like it's so big and perfect and beautiful, and it's like, oh, this is my one of my favorite records of all time. I want it on vinyl because it's just a bigger, more, if you ask me, a deluxe representation of it. You know what I mean? But I also like every time the Deftones have put out a record, I buy both the CD and the fucking vinyl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that's really what it comes down to. Every Metallica record I have on like every format possible. Every Nick Cave I have on every format possible. Like I'm a psychopath.
Yeah.
You
See, I've
know?
thought about doing that kind of stuff too, because like Eddie and I've had this conversation where it's like I should probably invest in like vinyl of like the Black Sabbath records, all the
Yeah, I
Motorhead
have all
records I
those on
like, the
vinyl. Yeah.
Metallica records. I want to get that Load box set though.
So you know what's funny? I meant to tell you this, but I figured I'd tell you eventually. I probably this is what I assumed, but so I was a Met Club member in high school, which I went to high school from what 96 to no 98 to 2001. So like right when Reload was coming out, right after Reload came out, I think. And however many years I just said I didn't fail any grade in high school. It was only 4 years for me. So I don't want to come off. I don't know how many years it is, but I don't want to seem like I was an idiot. But anyway, um, yeah, like so, like they had a thing in there. So like that was like at the height of like obviously CD buying for me, and there was like a lot of singles off of Load. I remember the first one was Until It Sleeps. I remember I went and got like the European whatever like 3 trackers or whatever, and it was like Motorhead cover Until It Sleeps record album version, Motorhead cover, and then like a demo. And I was like, oh, cool. And I knew that they had like all these demos that they hadn't finished this Reload record, and I was like really excited about the next record, and basically they kept releasing singles off of Load. And like I remember there was a Bleeding Me one, a Mama Said one, a King Nothing. There's a bunch, and they all had a demo attached to it, like the demo version of the song. I'm like, this is awesome. Like, I almost want to have like, I want to hear all these songs how they came to be. And then Reload came out, they started doing the same thing. And then in the Metallica fan club, they used to do a thing called a fan can, which they would send you like a literal paint can that was screen printed with some artwork on it. And then there would always be like an awesome tour t-shirt, like a crew t-shirt, not like one from the tour or whatever. A VHS and a CD and like guitar picks, drumstick, whatever, fucking backstage pass rental tour. And right after Reload, it was one year, every year they did a fan can. Right after Reload came out, the next fan can was like, here are all the songs off of Load and Reload. Pick which songs you want on one CD, and we'll send you and the votes will come in, and you'll get the demos of those songs. And I was like, holy fuck, like so I had to go through like all my singles and shit like that, and I was making sure to not have any doubles. Like I wanted all the songs that you couldn't get, and people still voted for like fucking Hero of the Day, even though you could get the goddamn Hero of the Day single. Like, why the fuck would you vote for that? Like I remember being so angry I couldn't hear something like For Twisted Me demo. I love that song, or like
Yeah.
Ronnie. Outlaw Torn is like my favorite. It's
Yeah.
probably one of my
Well,
favorite
they've got like
Metallica
the
songs.
full extended version of that on the box set.
So that was on the single for Memory Remains, maybe part two. I think part one was the demo of Memory Remains, and then part two was I think they called it the unencumbered by CD limitations version or something like that.
Yeah.
I love that song. I wanted to hear the demo of it really bad. I never know that's on the Load box set, and I always said I was going to hold out for Puppets and for Load. And when Puppets came out, I was like the brokest I have ever been broken in my entire life, so I don't have it. It bums me out now. It goes to like fucking absurd amount of money. But like
Yeah.
at least it's all on Spotify.
Like I always
So
wanted to get the And Justice box set before it came out. Like that was one of the ones where I was like, okay, this one I'll go all in on.
I thought the
Because I
same
figured they
thing.
would have done something special, like put out a version of the album that has bass on it.
Okay. So I literally remember when Puppets came out, I was like, I have all this stuff pretty much. I think there was like one cover that they never had nothing that never like leaked out, and I was like, fuck. So like, do I buy this even though it's my favorite? But Justice is like a real close second of mine, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna believe in Metallica that they're gonna release a better version of that record, like a remix of that. Because why wouldn't you just remaster it and then let's like do another mix of it for Jason?
Yeah.
Click up that one little notch there. Let's turn it up just a little bit, and then give that to me. You don't need to put it on vinyl. You know what I mean? Just put it on one of the CDs. And they didn't even do that. I was so fucking pissed. So I remember, and then I was also still broke. I had no choice. I was just an angry broke, I'm an angry poor person. It was terrible.
Yeah. I want to see what they do when they get to Saint Anger though.
I
Like
might
the funniest thing that
basically,
they could do is if they get to Saint Anger and they release the original album, but then they also release alongside it the finished album because the original album just sounds like demos.
yeah, I would actually love to hear some of those tracks that they were doing. Like, was it the at Presidio? They called it. There was
Yeah.
like one song on there that was like extremely doomy sounding, and I was like very interested. Like, and then we got Saint Anger, which had none of that crap.
Yeah.
But the load and reload ones I'm pretty into checking out. I love load, and I really want those demos. Once again,
Yeah.
here's
I
the
mean, the
thing
first
too.
conversation that we ever had in 2011 was basically us bonding over load.
It's a good fucking record. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. Everyone can
Yeah.
kiss my fucking ass if you don't like that record. That record's great. And like, here's the other thing too is I have all the Metallica on vinyl. I'm talking like I have first pressings, uh, all of them. So like, do I really need the vinyl versions of them again? Just because it's in a box. But like, Load kind of does hit a weird nostalgic point with me for whatever reason. I mean, I was in high school, like I saw Metallica a fuckload. Matter of fact, on Load, my other favorite band at the time in 96, 97 was Corrosion of Conformity. And they opened for them 3 nights in a row at the Allstate Arena in Rosemont here. And it was February 7th, 8th, and 9th. And my birthday's the 10th. So like I gotten tickets bought for me for all 3 nights. And I went to see Metallica all weekend. It was like the greatest way to like spend a fucking like, whatever 14-year-old's birthday. I love that. I just have so much nostalgia for that time. They played like, such a killer set. I remember you mentioned this the other day in our group chat, and this is how nerdy and deep I get with Metallica. You were like, oh yeah, they played early versions of Fuel. I'm like, well, the first time they ever played it was February 9th, 1997 at the Allstate Arena. Like
Yeah.
they also played Shortest Straw at that show, which was fucking sick. Um
Yeah, because I think
I,
that was on the set list for most of that tour. Because I think it's on the Cunning Stunts DVD, right?
the Fuel, is it?
Yeah, the
Or
Fuel is on there. I think Shortest Straw is on that DVD too,
the
though.
Shortest Straw was like second, it was like I think they called it their B set list or their C set list.
Yeah.
Or their B set list had like certain songs that went in and out, and Shortest Straw was one of those. I remember like being there on Sunday night after seeing Metallica twice, and also Metallica did Devil's Dance on Saturday night, which hadn't come out yet, and I was like, oh
Yeah.
fucking sick. But I had bootlegs of that from when they played Dawnington '95.
See, now I
You
want to
know,
go back and watch Cunning Stunts again because I haven't watched that in like a decade.
that's one of the
Like that
DVDs I
was
also
that the
still
first
had.
tour that they played in the round?
Yes, yes, the eight, it was a figure eight.
Yeah.
Like that, or whatever. Yeah, but they had the snake pit before that. That was the first time they played in the round. Yeah, it was awesome. I actually have like, dude, like, I'll have to send you some pictures later, but I have an incredible Metallica VHS bootleg collection, and so much of it is from that time because that was the newest shit coming out. I have like pretty low generation copies of like all of the shows that were on Cliff and Wall in whole, like the
Yeah.
entire sets, except for the best one, which is like the one from Detroit, which is why I think they do Leper Messiah. It's like shot from like the stage right balcony down. That guy that shot that, I think his name is Otto. He never made a copy except for Lars. It's like, yeah, this is deep. This is deep nerd shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like fucking. Let me bust out
I
some
I feel like at
fucking.
some point they have to like all that stuff that like Lars and James and everyone has in their vaults, like they have to really solve it at some point. But I mean,
Well,
there's
I mean,
just so much of it.
so like Metallica. I know like Lars has like pretty much every show they've ever done.
Yeah.
Like, which is fucking incredible. And like, what foresight to have. Like, he was a tape trader,
Yeah.
and like, a lot of people don't realize this. As much as they shit on Metallica for Napster and stuff, like back in the '80s, you could buy taper tickets for Metallica. which were like I actually have a stub somewhere I bought years later for one of their shows. It's taper ticket, and it was like basically you were in a section that they allowed recording, so you could record the sets.
Yeah.
Like they were like Lars talks a lot about tape trading in the early Metallica days, and that was like basically like literally fucking bootlegging records, exactly what they got you know strung up for. By the whole Napster thing. No one ever talks about Dr. Dre also being pissed at everybody, you
Yeah.
know. But also, guess what? Like nowadays, look at where you're at because of it.
Well, like everyone
They
looks at that from the perspective of like saying that Metallica was doing it from like a standpoint of being greedy, but they were like ultimately wanting to preserve everything for all the bands that were going to come up behind them so that it would still be
they were
possible for
looking
those
out
bands
for
to make money.
they were looking out for me. They're
Yeah.
trying their hardest, and everyone fucking shit on them because no one wanted to pay for anything. And now here we are. Now we have, not. But it's hard to be in a fucking band. I was just with I won't say their name, uh, a very large metal band, like say like in the 1,500 capacity venue range, a band that people would think make money. And I was
Yeah.
just talking to the dude, a really good friend of mine, and he was like, "Yeah, I was fucking delivering cupcakes because we haven't done anything in a couple of years before this tour." Like, could you imagine? Like, and it's like this is a band that has like kids going to see them, and mainstream metal emo people even like latching onto them. Could you imagine like dude from your favorite fucking band shows up to deliver you fucking cupcakes? It's like people are people. We're all humans. We all got to make a fucking dime. But like, dude, that's like fucking. It's emasculate, not emasculate, I guess, but it's what's the word I'm looking for here? Not cool.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
defeating.
it's the very defeating. Yeah, I'll take
Yeah.
that. Like it's like, dude, and I look at him and I'm like, wait a minute. Now he's like, well, I don't have to do that job anymore because now we're touring and they gotta be okay. But that guy couldn't live. Like people don't realize that like back in the 70s, like they used to pay fucking, record labels would pay fucking Led Zeppelin to fucking do whatever they were doing with 13-year-olds, God forbid. Like while they weren't fucking touring and putting out records because they were like they were a commodity and they were gonna make them $1 billion. Like nowadays, my record labels give up. I've been trying to get money from a record label for like 6 months now that they owe me.
Yeah.
Here I am, I did merch for the Hollywood Undead last week, you know,
Yeah. Well, it's like even in
terrible.
like the mid 90s, like when a band would have been first coming up, like I can remember having the first Corn VHS and like
Yeah.
Philly's talking about how after their first album, like he was still going back to being a janitor because they didn't really like break until Life is Peachy.
Right, 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 right. Yeah. And you got to survive, dude. Like,
Yeah.
like when I'm like, this is basically the first time with the Atlas Moth where we're like, oh, hey, we're going to make money. Yeah, I'm going to come home with money you heard that. It's like the first time I'm actually to come home with money from touring with the Atlas Moth. You think about how much I have toured, that's insane. We've made money before, but we always had to keep going. Like when we toured with like Gojira, we made a bunch of cash, but then we bought $6,000 worth of fucking plane tickets to Europe. We toured between the Buried Me. We made money, but then we had to go on another tour. We needed more, whatever it might be. Like this is the first time I'm actually gonna make money, and even then, like I ain't gonna like be surviving on it until the next Atlas Moth tour. It's insane, And now that everything is fucking tariffed through the fucking roof, like because some people are fucking assholes and make the wrong decision voting. But
Yeah.
what are you gonna do?
Like how does that even work now with like the money that you make in Toronto when you cross the border? Like, how much of that do you have to like pay as some
So
kind of like amount for bringing it into the country?
Well, so back since the last time we toured, the only thing I've ever known is that they ask you if you have more than $10,000 in cash
Yeah.
on you. Now, uh, we never have when we've gone in, right? Or come out. We never made
Yeah.
10 grand, like usually like if we had a bunch of money or if we were anywhere close to that, we would like have deposited in a bank because we didn't want it on us.
Yeah.
Because like God, the one thing that you're beaten into as a regular fucking blue collar working touring band is that like you're gonna get robbed. Someone's gonna steal your shit constantly. It's like the one thing that you're terrified of. So We never, and we knew that they were gonna tax us if we were bringing money into the country. But then that's the funny thing too. We were like, fuck that. Like just because we're bringing it in, we didn't make it here, or I think it was coming out. They would fuck with you. So we never really had to deal with that. But they never really fucked with us if it wasn't over 10 grand. So I'm not really sure how that would actually all work out. Not stoked to find out
Yeah.
by any means. You know what I mean? Or how they want to tax our fucking t-shirts or whatever. But
Yeah,
that's not
because I
that's
mean,
that's
you're
really
already getting it like both ways with like the venue fees for selling t-shirts, and then like you're getting whatever venue fees from the like admissions or ticket sales or whatever. So
yeah. We made it a point. Like I know that the guys that run Prepare the Ground in Toronto, which is like the basically, if anybody's happy that we're really back, they're the people that brought us back pretty much. They're the ones that convinced me to fucking make the call and fucking make this happen really, and got all of us really excited to play the band again. Um, I know that they have hooked us up with venues. The entire fest is venues that do not take any percentage, and we try hardest not to play venues on our own, at least that do that to us. House of Blues and Live Nation, those places take a lot. I've had House of Blues chase me down for like $200. When fucking I've seen Behemoth give them like 6 grand. Like
yeah,
so it's like, oh god, really? I could really use that $200, man. Like, but here you go, House of Blues. Thanks. Your fucking catering sucks. Like, so yeah, it's important. It's like there's a lot of ins and outs people don't realize about being in a band. I'm sure like the idea that like we're all fucking rock stars is totally dead. I'm sure people don't think that. And even then, like Metallica, someone like them, they're making money for sure. Obviously, it's silly to say that they're not, but that's the guarantee they're not they're like movies somehow or another got protected. Movies seem fine. Film like skated by the fucking as much as people bootleg it and download it or whatever. It seems to have they figured out a way. The way that the Spotify and all this shit works, it's a fucking joke. Like the people that own Spotify pay for shit. And people talk about Bandcamp and yada yada yada. And there's all those sources, but none of it's lighting up anyone's bank account that much. And like you have to remember, like fucking, you only get paid for a play if you listen to 75% of the song.
yeah,
So if you got a 10-minute song, that means you got to listen to 7 minutes of it before you give up on it, before that band gets a play. Like there's all these like little dumb fucking rules that you're just like, man, they really just don't want people to make music anymore. It's really sad in that regard. But then there's some real stubborn sons of bitches like us who will do it until we die because we have nothing else going on in our lives. You got that.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll be here till the end. You got me.
yeah. Well, yeah. So I've had you for about an hour and a half now. Don't want to take up too much of your night, but is there anything else that you want to put out there before we wrap things up?
Man, there might be some, but I don't even know. I literally have been working for Eli Roth and Hollywood Undead all week. Not together, that'd be weird, but my side gigs at home when I'm not on tour. So like I'm pretty cooked. The Motherless record is out 9/25. Atlas Moth on tour with Ariska and Royal Thunder. Yeah, that's all I got. It's pretty good.
All right. Well,
Follow
thanks
me
for
on the
taking the time,
internet.
Stavros.
Always, Raj. Always, my man.